The British High Commission in Ghana says it is waiting keenly for the outcome of investigations into the murder of Tiger Eye PIs Ahmed Hussein Swale, insisting that the outcome is of great interest to the UK government. Ahmed was shot thrice by unknown assailant at Medina on his way home, and almost 6 months on, it is unclear what the status of the investigation is. Speaking to Israel Lai as part of the Media Freedom Campaign, head of political affairs Anoop Vyas says the murder and other attacks on journalists are a source of great concern. He urged state actors not to see journalists as adversaries, but rather partners.
I think journalism around the world is having a hard time. I think the role of a journalist is to speak truth to power. They are there to uncover what is in the public interest. Now, what they uncover may not be what those that hold the keys to power potentially like, but nonetheless, it's important that they deliver the message and actually inform the public, because there is a right to know about what's going on in the state of the world around them. And journalists are often the first to find out what's happening, and part of the checks and balances on the state, and it's a facet of a modern democracy.
Is there any of the incidents that happen in Ghana that readily jumps at you when it comes to attacks on journalists?
Well, every attack against a journalist is abhorrent and is something that needs to be taken into consideration when Ghana looks at its broader international narrative as an open, friendly country that respects human rights and is tolerant and freedom of speech. So every attack does diminish that in some way. Obviously, we have been talking today about the murder of Ahmed Hussein Swale. That has been something that shocked the international community. I know when the Foreign Secretary was here, he spoke to Tiger Eye, to Anas in particular, to convey the condolences on behalf of the UK government. We are looking to see what happens next. This poor young man was taken. There was clear signs that it was a murder and should be considered in those terms. And we're looking to see what happens in terms of justice and bringing those responsible to account.
Why do you think we're increasingly having some of these attacks on journalists?
Well, look, I would say this, that journalism is a key part of what we do. I wouldn't necessarily always say that attacks are on the rise, but here in Ghana. But what I would say is that journalism is the relationship between journalists and the institutions can sometimes be a challenging one. And I think that that state institutions, when engaging with the media, the tendency can sometimes be to have an adversarial relationship. Actually, sometimes it's about getting your message out strategically, proactively, so that when the media are asking questions, and actually it's right to ask difficult questions, that you have a considered answer. You are able to take on the challenge, because ultimately they are asking questions that will lead to greater transparency, greater accountability. So having that, having your own set of messages that you want to convey and based on facts and evidence, then that should lead to a healthier debate. I think when the adversarial side comes out, unfortunately that it creates a different atmosphere that is not conducive to journalism.
Well, the campaign is on, and news editor at GH1 Nanaba Namwa is asking media houses to come together as one in this fight.
I think that it's getting uninteresting. I mean, I meet young people who want to be in the media, and they say that, oh, I could be beaten up. Why should a young person in the 21st century, when there is so much media freedom across the world, be petrified, and I like the word you used, to join the media because of a fear of being brutalized? So I think that we need to do better. I think media houses should come together, because what I see right now is one media house doing this campaign, another media house doing that campaign, and when another media house thinks that it is time to wage the flag, on media freedom, because another station has started, they think, oh, that is theirs, let's leave it. It breaks our front. And so the media must come together as one. If a reporter at Joy FM is brutalized, every journalist in this country must be concerned. Every journalist in this country must be worried. You don't get excited or keep quiet because it is Joy FM and not your station. So I think that we are in, I wouldn't use the word turbulent, but we are not in a very safe period at the moment as journalists, because you go out and even when you are wearing a tag, when you are really identified, you are still getting brutalized or verbally assaulted by people, and I think it is unhealthy.
It is unhealthy indeed. Defend media freedom, that is the hashtag, and we keep going on. Throughout this week, the Multimedia Group has led that campaign seeking an end to attacks on pressmen and ensure a freer media space in Ghana. This was critical because, as it is in every society, the media provide the platform for people, including yourself, our cherished viewers, to engage with the powers that be, from the president to the police. The campaign, dubbed Defend Media Freedom, is a campaign that is gauging the views of a number of senior members of the fraternity. So one of them has been speaking to JoyNews' editor, Fifi Coombs. And actually, Fifi Coombs has put together a wrap of events so far.
The nation has experienced some of the worst atrocities against media men in the history of the Fourth Republic. A journalist, Ahmed Swale, has been killed. He was shot at close range.
It's something very shocking, and what people were even intending to do, we have big malams and imams who come to talk to us not to take the law into our hands, because yet we don't know who is responsible.
A journalist, Latif Idris, has been beaten and left with a fractured skull, wounded for life by police officers.
And they joined and beat me up with sticks, with their legs, with the back of their guns, hitting mine. Yesterday, I asked him to take a shot of that. They hit me with the back of the gun about 3 times at the back of my head here.
Many others still bear the wounds from the brutal assault on them. At least 31 attacks in the last year and 41 since the assumption of office of President Akufo-Addo.
We hadn't recorded any incident of, a murder, but this year we've had that. We hadn't had a case where a journalist in Ghana has had to be compelled by circumstances to, at least relocate for a while. This year we've had that. And then the worrying phenomenon is also when it is political activists who are the perpetrators, because these are backed by big machineries. Whether it is the governing party or the opposition party, it should be worrying to us.
These and many more attacks on the media set the tone for the Global Forum on Media Freedoms in London early July.
With many governments also insulting and threatening journalists and seeking to throttle media organizations through strict controls on ownership, licensing and online activity, we have reached the point where there are few places in the world where journalists are not surveilled, harassed, disenfranchised or subject to self-censorship.
So do you know the importance of journalists?
The Multimedia Group joined the campaign with the launch of the hashtag Defend Media Freedom. And it was critical because the media provided the platform to give voice to the citizenry and to shine a light on the issues that affect ordinary people who have no chance of ever meeting or speaking to their president, minister, or MP. For a lot of the experts, the nation is going through a period of gradual attempt to crack down on media freedoms, the limiting of the reach of FM stations to 45 kilometers. This is expected to affect various radio stations in Ghana, Joy FM, Peace FM, and many more.
There are laws that sometimes government may decide to apply it in a very whimsical and discriminatory way, such as what the NCA recently did in terms of shutting down certain particular media organizations in the name of applying a court ruling. And one wonders why others who were also affected by the same court ruling didn't suffer the same penalty.
To be fair, though,
I think that generally for all of us, it is time that we all had a reawakening, because there are times when these things have happened and even, media houses that are professional themselves, it's as if we really do not care too much about what it is that happens to us.
Former VRA boss Dr. Charles Rekubrobe established the first private radio station in Ghana, Radio I. He describes the current media dispensation as the worst in the history of the Fourth Republic.
It reminds me of a Dubois Ahim's culture of silence. You know, the government of the party that believes in the rule of law and the freedom of speech and expression and Kabi and everything is inadvertently, because I have no evidence to suggest that it has taken specific divisions, but it's inadvertently recreating a culture of silence in Ghana. Because if you don't condemn and you do not reprobate,
and you do not culture of silence in 2019, that you're hearing echoes of it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because
that's such a chilling thing to say. Because
I'm sorry, I need to be very chilling. These are my brothers. We've been in the trenches together. We fought for press freedom. Because I
Aren't you exaggerating this?
No, because the issue is that, you know, if a journalist does a story, or media house does a story, and it's not sure whether goons will descend on the station, they're going to be more cautious. That's human nature. So those in authority need to come out and say, not only do we have nothing to do with this, those who actually broke the laws of this country and acted with impunity shall be taken to task. And that silence, for me, as I said, inadvertently, is recreating the culture of silence, because you are actually, and then journalists are murdered and we don't know, there's nothing happening. Investigations which we don't know, journalists are beaten, journalists have to go into hiding. Exactly. And also, all of these things, you know, add up to the recreation of the culture of silence that we all fought against in the early 90s.
For him, one thing that provides fodder for that conviction is the shutdown of various radio stations across the country under this government. Dr. Charles Rekubrobe says he's personally written to President Akufo-Addo on the matter. This is because in the senior citizens' part with the Rawlings administration over the establishment of Radio I, Nana Akufo-Addo was his lawyer.
Freedom is something that we have to be fighting for every day, every hour, you know, all the time.
For a man who fought for media freedom in Ghana, editor-in-chief of the Insight newspaper, Kwesi Pratt Jr., believes a return to a period of intolerance by the state for the media will be dangerous for its democracy. Those pushing for censorship of the media often cite infractions by pressmen as grounds for their posture. But Mr. Pratt says people who feel offended by the media must resort to the law.
That if the media is not responsible, then the freedoms will be taken away. And this is an utterly irresponsible statement, especially coming from media practitioners. You understand? I mean, nothing justifies the limiting of the space for free expression. Nothing in the world can justify that.
My name is Daniel Daze.
Bernard Avle.
Kwame Sefakan.
Right, Nana Amfo.
As the fourth estate of the realm, the media is only there to ultimately work in the interest of the public. That means any attempt to break its clause will be an attempt to stifle free speech. Is the reason media people will advocate a defense of press or media freedoms.
So press freedom
is that which enables me to tell the stories that matter the most to the audience.
And then to be able to hold powerful people accountable.
Press freedom to me means that I have
legal backing, support of the state, support of the security agencies to be able to
be fair, to be probing, and to be development oriented. Press freedom.
Hashtag defend media freedom. Fifi Kumsin, JoyNews.
It's very vital for the survival of any democracy. In fact, I feel it is part of the birthright of every citizen.